My daughter hijacked our fall festival, changed the locks on our home while we were in Oregon, threw a party for strangers, then called us selfish for ruining her harvest house experience. You'd think hosting the same event every year would get easier, but it didn't. If anything, it got worse. My name's Dale Morton. I'm 62. I live with my wife Ruth in a cedar-shingled lodge just outside Brattleboro, Vermont. We used to be proud of the Harvest Lantern Fest. Now we just dread it. It started small. Years ago, maybe 24 folks from the neighborhood, some cider, Ruth's famous butternut squash soup, hay rides behind the old John Deere. It was fun back then. Now it's a production with a guest list that stretches 3 pages and a crowd that treats it like a catered hotel function. Last year nearly broke us. Do you remember that woman complaining about the cider? Ruth asked one night while we were scrubbing pans at midnight. Her hands were bright red from washing dishes all day. Which one? I asked. The one who said it was lukewarm or the one who asked if we had a sugar-free version? She let out a sharp laugh and shook her head. There were complaints about the food being bland, the hay rides too short, the pumpkin carving knives too dull. Somebody said our Esmore station wasn't well managed, whatever the hell that means. Ruth nearly passed out trying to prep enough food. She'd been up since 4 in the morning, roasting squash and baking apple crisps for 70 people, most of whom didn't even say thank you. I spent the day driving tractor loops, faking cheerful commentary for a wagon full of kids glued to their iPads. That night, I came down with a migraine so intense I couldn't see straight. I lay in bed with the lights off while Ruth sat on the floor beside me, eating dinner in silence, knees pressed against the nightstand like we were strangers in our own home. I don't think I can do this again, she said softly, more to herself than to me. I was hoping you'd say that, I replied. We made a pact, right then and there. No Harvest Lantern Fest this year. No flyers. No setup. No baking. No hay rides. We trade Vermont's maple sweet air for the rocky trails of Oregon, just the 2 of us. A hiking retreat. No schedules. No cleanup. Just peace. I think we were both surprised at how quickly we agreed. We didn't even talk about it the next day. Just started researching flights and trail lodges. It was quiet, and for once, the quiet felt good. When the first leaves started changing color, Ruth glanced out the window one morning and said, "You think anyone will notice?" "Probably," I said. "But they'll live." For once, we were choosing ourselves. We told them over brunch, like it was no big deal. Because to us, it wasn't. The kids were all home that weekend. Ruth made her blackberry scones, the kind they used to beg for when they were little, and I brewed a big pot of hazelnut coffee. It felt like the right setting, casual, warm. We thought they'd understand. "I've got some news," I said, setting my mug down. Mom and I decided not to host the Lantern Fest this year. At first, nobody said anything. Our son Adam glanced at Ruth, then back at his plate. Erin, the oldest, paused mid-bite, her expression unreadable. But Fiona, our youngest, froze, her hand wrapped around a delicate porcelain teacup. "What?" she said. Not loud, but sharp enough that everyone turned. "We're taking a break," Ruth said calmly. "We booked a hiking trip in Oregon. We leave the week before the festival." Fiona blinked like she hadn't heard right. "You're kidding." "No," I said. "It's been a long time coming." Her mouth fell open slightly, and she sat back in her chair like the wind had been knocked out of her. "But you can't just cancel it." "We're not canceling it," Ruth said. "We're just stepping away from it. 1 year. You're abandoning it," Fiona snapped. Her voice cracked, and she quickly looked away, blinking hard. Adam cleared his throat. "It's their decision, Fi." Fiona slammed her cup down hard enough that the spoon inside rattled. "It's not just their decision. It's a town tradition. It's our family tradition. People count on this." I looked at her, trying to stay level. People count on a lot of things, but they don't lift a finger to help. We've been carrying this for too long. Fiona's jaw clenched. "You could have asked for help." "We did. For years," Ruth said gently. "And every time, it's just us at the end of the night, scrubbing pie pans and fixing broken chairs." "I would have stepped up," Fiona said, her voice rising, "if I had known you were going to quit on everyone." "We're not quitting," I said firmly. "We're taking a break." Fiona stood up, shaking her head. "Unbelievable. I can't believe you'd do this to us." She grabbed her coat and stormed out. No goodbye. No hug. Just slammed the door behind her like she was the one who'd been betrayed. The silence that followed was thick. Adam leaned forward, his voice low. "Don't feel bad. She just gets worked up." Erin nodded. "Honestly, I think it's the right call." Later that afternoon, I saw my phone light up with notifications, group chats from the neighborhood and church pages, filled with buzzwords like disappointed and unthinkable. Ruth just turned off her phone and went to the porch. I joined her there, neither of us saying much. For once, the quiet didn't feel like guilt. It felt like peace. Almost. At first, we thought maybe the gossip would die down. People would grumble for a while, maybe throw together their own little potlucks, and move on. We were wrong. It started with a text from Mrs. Abernathy, one of our longtime neighbors. Thank you for reconsidering. We're so excited for the Lantern Fest this year. Let me know if you still need extra tables. I stared at the message for a good minute, thinking maybe I was losing my mind. Then another came in. And another. I'll bring apple tarts again. Hope you don't mind that I invited the Andersons too. Got my costume ready. Can't wait to see everyone at your place. I showed Ruth my phone. She just frowned, confused. What the hell is going on? She asked. That night, we sat on the couch, side by side, both scrolling through message after message from excited neighbors, cousins we barely spoke to, old friends who apparently thought the Lantern Fest was back on. I don't understand, Ruth said, her voice tight. We didn't tell anyone it was happening. I started digging. Checked the church bulletin board online. Scanned the local Facebook group. That's when I saw it. An event listing, Morton Family Harvest Lantern Fest, October 15th, same lodge, same time. Organizer, Fiona Morton. I felt my stomach drop. She didn't, Ruth whispered when I showed her. She did. She hadn't just made a casual post either. Fiona had gone full out. Digital invitations, sign-up sheets for food, volunteer slots for hayrides. There were even group rates listed for a nearby bed and breakfast for out-of-town guests staying for the festival. She forged this whole thing like we'd changed our minds, Ruth said, her voice cracking. And everyone believed her. I kept scrolling, jaw tightening. Catering confirmations. Rental equipment for extra heaters and lights. Even a sign-up for live acoustic music around the fire pit, scheduled for our backyard. And it was all coming together at our home. Without asking. Without telling us. Without even giving us the option to say no. Ruth buried her face in her hands. She's hijacked everything. She thinks she's saving it, I said, though the words tasted bitter. Saving tradition. Saving face. She's lying to everyone, Ruth said, lifting her head, her voice trembling. Using our names. Our house. I didn't know what stung more. That Fiona thought she was doing the right thing, or that she thought it was her right to do it at all. We sat there, stunned, as more messages flooded in. People thanking us. Telling us how excited they were. Making plans. Booking flights. As if we had any say in it. Dale, Ruth said quietly, her hand gripping mine. What do we do? I didn't have an answer yet. All I knew was this. The Harvest Lantern Fest wasn't dead after all. It had been stolen. We thought about canceling the trip. Honestly, we almost did. But Ruth said it best. If we stay, she wins. So we packed our hiking boots, zipped up our jackets, and boarded a flight west. Hearts heavy, but heads high. We weren't running away. We were choosing ourselves for once. At first, Oregon felt like a balm we didn't know we needed. Crisp pine air. Miles of trails through gold-tipped forests. Hot coffee on a chilly balcony overlooking the Cascade Mountains. No buzzing phones. No nosy neighbors. For about 2 days, we almost forgot the chaos waiting back home. Then, on the third afternoon, as we sat on the lodge balcony sipping Pinot Noir, my phone buzzed. It was Mr. Hooper, our neighbor. I hesitated before answering. Hey, Dale, he said, voice low like he didn't want anyone to overhear. Listen, I wasn't sure if I should call, but I just saw Fiona at your place. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? She was with a locksmith. Looked like she was changing your locks. My stomach twisted. I gripped the arm of my chair so hard it creaked. She was what? Changing the locks. New keypad system too. She told the guy it was to get ready for the festival. He hesitated. Dale, it didn't seem right. I thanked him and hung up. Ruth was already staring at me, reading my face. What is it? I exhaled slowly, trying to steady my voice. She's changed our locks. Ruth's hand flew to her mouth. She can't do that. That's illegal, right? It's our property, I said. Of course it's illegal. Before I could think too hard, I dialed Fiona. She picked up after 2 rings. Hey, Dad, she said brightly, like we were calling to swap hiking stories. How's Oregon? I forced my voice to stay even. Mr. Hooper says you changed our locks. There was a beat of silence, then a shrug in her tone. Well, yeah. You weren't going to be there, and people need access. It's basically the community's lodge anyway. The community's lodge? I repeated, disbelief sharpening every word. She laughed. Actually laughed. Come on, Dad. Everyone thinks of it that way. It's a tradition. Ruth looked like she might be sick. Fiona, I said slowly, you had no right. You guys were being selfish. Someone had to save the festival, she said, her voice tightening. I'm just doing what needed to be done. There it was. The justification. The rewriting of history. We'll deal with it when we get home, I said flatly, and hung up before she could say anything else. Ruth was pale, gripping the sides of her chair. Should we go back? She whispered. I thought about it. About throwing our trip away. About charging into that mess and giving her exactly the spectacle she probably expected. No, I said. Not yet. But we'll handle it when we get home, I repeated, reaching for her hand. On our terms, not hers. For the rest of that evening, we didn't talk much. We sat under a cold, clear sky, wine forgotten, the stars glittering over the dark pine trees. And somewhere back in Vermont, our home was slipping out of our hands. But not for long. We tried to stay calm. We tried to enjoy the last days of our trip, hiking through the misty Oregon woods and sitting by the lodge fire pit at night. But it was like waiting for a bomb to go off, knowing it had already been triggered. It finally hit us late one evening. I was scrolling absent-mindedly through my phone, half listening to Ruth talk about dinner options, when a notification popped up, a video tag on social media. I clicked it without thinking. There, glowing on the screen, was our lodge. Our home, packed with strangers. People laughing, drinking, dancing barefoot across our polished hardwood floors. Kids running wild through the orchard. Tables lined up along the porch, dripping with catered food we hadn't ordered. In the center of it all, like the queen of some twisted harvest kingdom, stood Fiona, wearing a flowing bohemian dress, crown of fake flowers perched on her head, holding a microphone. "Welcome to the first ever Harvest House experience," she cried, throwing her arms wide as the crowd cheered. I dropped the phone onto my lap, stunned. "What is it?" Ruth asked, reaching for it. I couldn't even speak. I just handed it over. She watched the video, silent at first. Then she pressed a hand over her mouth, eyes filling with tears. "That's our lodge," she whispered. "That's our home." It got worse. I dug deeper, heart hammering. Found the house share listing Fiona had posted. Rustic Vermont Lodge, perfect for fall getaways. Weekend packages. Group retreats. Pricing per head. She hadn't just hijacked the Lantern Fest. She was selling it. Selling access to our home. To our lives. "She's renting it out," I said, the words sharp and cold. "She's turning it into a business." Ruth's face crumpled. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, and started to cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just silent, steady tears. I sat beside her, feeling rage coil tied in my chest. I called Fiona. Straight to voicemail. I called again. This time, she picked up, laughter still in her voice. "Hey, Dad. Sorry, can't really talk. Busy hosting." She sang out, music and chatter blaring in the background. "You cancel this. Right now," I said, voice low and dangerous. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Too late, Dad. Non-refundable deposits. Contracts? Yes, who paid good money. You wouldn't want to ruin that, would you? You're playing with fire," I said. "You have no right." "It's for the community," she snapped. "It's bigger than you now. You're being selfish." The call ended before I could say another word. Ruth looked at me, eyes red, voice hoarse. "What are we going to do?" I stared out into the night. Past the rows of dark trees, into the nothingness. "We're going home," I said. "And we're taking it all back. No more calls. No more warnings." The line between family and trespasser had been crossed. And this time, there would be no going back. We caught the first flight back. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't post a thing. Just packed up our bags and boarded that plane like soldiers heading into enemy territory. The drive from the airport was quiet. Ruth stared out the window the whole time, wringing the strap of her purse. I kept my hands tight on the wheel, jaw locked, stomach boiling. When we pulled up the long dirt drive to the lodge, I almost didn't recognize it. The place was a circus. Cars jammed along the sides of the road, some even parked halfway into the orchard. Banners strung sloppily across the porch pillars. Loud music thumping from cheap rental speakers. Mud tracked across the lawn like a battlefield. My hands tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I killed the engine. We got out. Ruth gasped when she saw the state of the front yard. Paper plates, plastic cups, half-eaten donuts littered the grass. Someone had tied balloons to the apple trees. One of them had already popped, the ragged bits tangled around a low branch. I marched up to the front door and punched in our old security code. Nothing. Locked out. I tried again, slower, but the keypad flashed red. "New system," Ruth said quietly beside me, her voice shaking. Fiona had changed it. Of course she had. I slammed my fist against the door, then stepped back, breathing hard. "What now?" Ruth whispered. Adam, our son, chose that moment to pull up, his truck kicking up dust behind him. He parked crookedly, climbed out, and took one look at us, at the chaos, and his face darkened. Without a word, he cut through the side yard, disappearing behind the house. Minutes later, I heard the back screen door creak open. Adam appeared, dragging Fiona by the wrist. She looked stunned but still defiant, hair messy, cheeks flushed like she'd been drinking. "You can't be here," she snapped, pulling away from him. "This is our home," I said, stepping forward. "Not a public park. Not a rental property. You abandoned it," she shot back. "The festival needed saving. And so you thought you could take it?" I said, voice rising. "Change the locks? Sell our home to strangers?" She crossed her arms, chin lifting. "I'm doing what's best for the community." "You're doing what's best for yourself," Adam said sharply. And you're about to be arrested if you don't unlock that damn door. She scoffed. You wouldn't. Adam pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over the screen. Wanna bet? I'll call the sheriff right now. Trespassing. Breaking and entering. Fraud. Take your pick. Fiona's bravado cracked. I saw it, the split-second flicker of fear behind her eyes. I'll open it, she muttered, reaching for the keypad. The door beeped and swung open. The smell hit me first, sweaty bodies, spilled cider, damp hay. We stepped inside. My heart cracked. Mud tracked across our antique rugs. Wine stains blotched the wood floors. Someone had lit a fire in the stone hearth, and soot blackened the stone all the way up to the vaulted ceiling. Strangers wandered through our home, laughing, taking selfies in front of the fireplace like it was a tourist attraction. I caught a glimpse of one man, mid-50s, beer in hand, drinking from one of Ruth's crystal wedding goblets. Ruth gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. That was it. Something inside me snapped clean in half. I turned back to Fiona, who stood in the doorway, arms crossed, daring me to do something. You have 1 minute, I said, my voice low and shaking. 1 minute to clear this house before I call the police. Her face paled. And this time, she didn't argue. For a few seconds, nobody moved. The music kept blaring, people kept laughing, completely oblivious to the storm about to hit. Then I raised my voice, sharp and cutting across the room like a knife. Everyone out. Now. The music died mid-beat. Conversations dropped off like a light switch had been flipped. Heads turned toward me confused, embarrassed, some just plain stunned. I said, get out, I repeated, voice low but lethal. Ruth stood frozen beside me, still staring at the man holding her wedding glass. He set it down carefully, avoiding her eyes, and slipped toward the door without a word. That broke the spell. Guests scrambled, grabbing coats, snatching up half-eaten pies, mumbling apologies no one met. A few muttered to each other as they squeezed through the door, but nobody had the guts to challenge me. They just left. One by one. All of them. I watched the muddy footprints smear across our floors as they went, but I didn't care anymore. I just wanted them gone. Fiona stood near the fireplace, arms wrapped around herself, still trying to look unbothered. But I could see it, the way her hands trembled, the way her eyes darted toward the door as the house emptied. You should all be ashamed of yourselves, Ruth said suddenly, her voice cracking through the silence. People paused, glancing back guiltily. A few offered weak, embarrassed smiles. Most didn't meet her gaze. They just hurried faster. In 5 minutes, the house was empty. Only Fiona remained. And us. The silence that filled the lodge felt heavier than the noise had ever been. Fiona finally looked up, her eyes flashing. You ruined everything, she hissed. You embarrassed me. You humiliated all those people. You. No, I said, stepping closer. You humiliated yourself. She opened her mouth to argue, but Adam cut her off. We backed you up for years, Fi, he said, voice rough. Made excuses. Told people you meant well. But this was too far. Even Aaron's done with you. That hit harder than anything else. I saw it. Her bravado crumbled. Fiona turned on her heel and stormed toward the door, muttering curses under her breath. She yanked it open so hard it slammed against the wall. For a moment, I thought she might turn back, might say something, might even apologize. But she didn't. She walked out into the dark. Gone. The heavy oak door swung slowly shut behind her, sealing the house in a thick, aching silence. Ruth sagged against me, and I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Adam stood nearby, staring at the wreckage, at the muddy floors, the stained rug, the broken remnants of what used to be our safe place. But underneath all the wreckage, there was something else too. A stillness. A beginning. We hadn't just taken back our house that night. We had taken back ourselves. The next morning, before the sun even crested the orchard trees, I called the locksmith. By noon, every single lock had been changed. New codes. New keys. Fresh starts. No more open-door policy. No more community lodge. From now on, this was our home, and ours alone. Ruth stood beside me on the porch as the locksmith packed up his tools. She held a mug of coffee in both hands, staring out across the front yard, still scarred with muddy tire tracks and trampled grass. It's like someone bulldozed our life, she said quietly. I reached for her hand. It's ours to rebuild now. Nobody else's. Inside, Adam and Aaron helped to scrub the floors, sponge the wine stains, and haul away the broken decorations. It wasn't easy. Some things would never look the same. But little by little, piece by piece, we reclaimed it. And outside, the town kept buzzing. The first cracks showed up online. Fiona posted a long, dramatic message on the community page. My parents have turned their backs on tradition. They don't believe in community anymore. They care more about their precious house than about all of you. She framed it like she was the victim. Like Ruth and I were selfish monsters who canceled the beloved tradition just to spite everyone. For a few hours, people seemed to buy it. Comments piled up, sympathetic emojis, clucking tongues, old neighbors saying how sad it was to see the Mortons change. Then Dale posted, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, Ruth standing over my shoulder, Adam sipping a soda nearby. I kept it simple, a calm, professional post with no anger, no accusations. Just facts. Screenshots of the fake invitations. Catering contracts signed without our consent. The locksmith bill. Photos of the damaged floors. An invoice from the house share platform where Fiona rented out our lodge. Receipts, timelines, proof. All laid out, clear and cold. The tone of the conversation shifted almost instantly. Wait, they didn't even agree to host it? She rented their house out without permission? That's not tradition. That's theft. Comment by comment, the tide turned. The same neighbors who clucked their tongues at us were suddenly silent. Some even messaged privately, apologizing. A few brave souls posted publicly, calling Fiona out directly. By the end of the day, Fiona deleted her original post. By the end of the week, she left most of the community group threads altogether. She wasn't officially banished. No one voted her off the island. But the next church potluck? She wasn't invited. The next harvest committee meeting? She wasn't even mentioned. It was a quiet exile, the kind that only a small town can deliver, slow, sure, and complete. And for the first time in years, Ruth and I could breathe. Our lodge was still scarred. Our hearts were still tender. But the house was silent. And the silence wasn't filled with expectations anymore. It was filled with peace. The first hard frost came early that year. By the end of October, the orchard behind the lodge was a sea of rust and gold, the trees dropping their leaves in slow, steady waves. I pulled on an old flannel jacket and wandered out there one afternoon, boots crunching over the fallen leaves. The air was crisp, just sharp enough to sting my nose, and the sky stretched out wide and gray above the hills. It was quiet. Not the kind of quiet we used to dread, the lonely, guilt-laced kind that followed a canceled party or a missed commitment. This was different. This was peace. I paused at the edge of the orchard, looking back at the lodge. Ruth was inside, her silhouette moving behind the kitchen window. A few minutes later, I saw her light a small candle and set it on the sill. Just a single candle, flickering against the glass. No hayrides. No potlucks. No crowds. Just us. Our new tradition. I walked back slowly, hands tucked in my pockets, feeling the weight of it all, the years of bending, giving, hosting until we broke. The years of believing that saying yes made us good people. Maybe it did once. But it nearly broke us too. Now, we were choosing something else. When I stepped inside, Ruth smiled at me, tired but real. She reached for my hand and pulled me down beside her on the old worn couch. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. We sat together, watching the candle flicker in the window, and beyond it, the leaves tumbling across the empty yard. There was no music. No laughter. No festival. Just the whisper of autumn settling into winter, the quiet breath of a house finally at rest. And for the first time in years, it felt like ours again. Completely, quietly, wonderfully ours.